Okay, so for our next talk today, we are going to be hearing from Victor Donnay from the Department of Mathematics in Bryn Mawr College, and he will be giving a talk on community-based projects for a course on math modeling and sustainability. So I will give the floor over to him, and I hope you all enjoy this talk.
Well, thanks. It's so great to have this chance to share the work I've done about a course on math modeling and sustainability, and in particular, having students do projects with community partners. I wrote about it way back in 2013 in the previous special issue, and that was kind of the early days, and I've been working on it ever since. So I'll talk about two things. First, the classroom component of the course, and one could totally do a course completely on that level without any of these community projects. But then I'll also talk about the community projects. And a little bit of background, how did I get to this point of having this course on math modeling and sustainability? And one starting point was this book, Collapse, by Gerard Diamond, How Societies Choose to Succeed or Fail. And it talked of different societies over time that had a collapse, whether it was, often it was ecological, environmental conditions changed. And at the end, the author talks about this idea that our society nowadays is global. We're all very interdependent. And with our climate crisis and various other ecological problems, potentially we will have a global human collapse. So that got me more concerned about these issues than I had been previously. And also the Earth climate system is a dynamical system, a very complex one, but my field of math is dynamical systems and chaos theory. So it seemed kind of connected to my other interests. And then, I don't know about you, but as a professor, I sometimes feel that I need to park my personal interests at the door when I go into my class and be a professor. I don't want to mix that personal and professional. And I kind of wanted to move beyond that, certainly something as important as the climate emergency. I wanted to figure out how I could connect these different parts of my life and be fully myself when I'm in there with my students. And it seemed this course on math modeling and sustainability would be a way to do that. And if you were at my talk on Friday, you saw that this question is how I begin all of my math talks now, having students in groups discussing what issues they're concerned about. And then they present it out, we make a list, but I say the goal of our math course is to see how the math we learn can connect to these issues you care about. So also giving the students a chance to bring their full selves to our math course and connect the math to things they care about. And then, I don't know if you personally feel this way, I certainly feel at a time, climate despair, which our young people, our students who are going to have to face the climate crisis throughout their lives really deal with when they think about climate. And a great remedy for that is to take action and overcome the passivity that we feel by this really overwhelming challenge facing humanity. So all these different pieces kind of came together to create this course. Early versions of it were more focused on environmental issues. This wonderful book by Charles Hadlock, Math Modeling in the Environment, was my start. And Charles was a wonderful mentor. He came and visited at Bryn Mawr and talked with our students and supported me as I was trying to figure out how to do all of this. And then I've been inspired by Tom Paff at Ithaca College, who did courses at the joint math meetings showing these modules he's developed for both calculus, statistics courses, how to bring issues of sustainability, maybe bit by bit, into our existing courses. So when I developed this course on math modeling and sustainability, I based it on this wonderful book by David McKay, Sustainable Energy Without the Hot Air. And the theme is, at scale, if we're trying to power our entire nation, is it theoretically possible that we can do that using renewable energy? How much energy do we use in our day-to-day lives? How much energy can we produce from solar, wind, water, other renewable sources? So when I was thinking about this course with Brian, I was a little concerned. I mean, this is a conference on differential equations. It's not quite that no differential equations were harmed in the making of the course. It's actually that no differential equations were even used. And what's wonderful about this book by the physicist McKay is that he claims, and it's true, that it's basically high school algebra that you need. Although you need to do clever modeling, approximations, but you don't really need sophisticated math, and you'll see the students realize that. But it's very creative how he did it, and as a math person, not a physicist, I learned a lot about modeling from his approaches. So his theme is how much energy do we use? How much energy can we create? And he goes bit by bit looking at different aspects of our lives and what energy is needed, and then different renewable sources and how much possible energy could we make. He doesn't worry much about cost, about electric wires, how would we get solar from one part of the country to the other. So it's theoretical, but it's looking at this big question, is it really possible to power our society by renewables? And this was done in the earlier 2000s, so a lot of things have evolved since then, but it's still basically really great. So we'll just do one example together to kind of give you the flavor for what he does around car travel. So how much energy does the average American use per day from driving a car? And for a student who's maybe even taken, calculus and advanced math, they maybe have never thought about this type of almost Fermi problem of modeling. So even this is kind of opening their eyes to how you do this. And McKay's approach is, let's come up with a unit that is understandable to us humans. The units, how much energy is used in the whole country or how much carbon is produced. These are massive numbers, gigatons, that we can't really conceive of. So here we use kilowatt hours per person per day, which are manageable, and any type of energy used is always converted to kilowatt hours. So, you have gasoline, how much energy is in 1 gallon of gasoline in kilowatt hours. Now, he just talks a bit about CO2, but that's not really a focus of the book. But on every example we look at, I add in, well, how much CO2 is produced in using this energy. And it turns out about 40 kilowatt hours a day per person is used by cars. His data is all from Great Britain. In the US, of course, we use more than they do. So the numbers are a bit different. It turns out this is actually a large number when you look at other amounts. So our car travel is one of our major energy uses. So an interesting question is, how much energy would we get if we used EV vehicles? Turns out 60 to 70% of all car energy is wasted as heat in the engine from these explosions in the drive cycle. So EV cars are much more energy efficient. And then how much energy or CO2 would be produced for an EV car? Of course, if it's renewables, it's none. But if you use the grid, you see you actually come out ahead, even if you get your energy from Kentucky, which uses a lot of coal. And then a more sophisticated question is, what is the payback time for purchasing an EV versus a fossil fuel vehicle? Yesterday's New York Times had an article saying the initial cost now is almost equal when you factor in all the rebates. So it's annoying. These good math questions now are getting so simple that the answer, is too simple. But they look at capital costs, operating costs, and then they also figure out the net present value, which is a more sophisticated version that businesses use. So in the projects, this is often the type of analysis they might do for a partner. What is the payback time for buying electric vehicles for your college or town, if you buy solar panels for your school building? So this was a good example to do. And then on the energy side, how much energy per person per day could be generated by solar. And we see that there are all these amazing websites. As an old school math professor, the idea of using real data was foreign. And it's like, cool, wow, answers are not 0 or 1 all the time, but all this real data. So that's an interesting question. Suppose we cover 1% of the United States with solar panels. How much could we produce the 40 kilowatt hours a day we need to equal our energy use from our automobiles? So I won't say more about that part, but it could be a whole session or even a mini course about that course. So then the second part is these community-based projects. And so I'll say a bit about how I do that. Before the semester begins, I line up a couple of projects. I work with our civic engagement office. And now that I've been doing it for 10 years, I already can actually make a lot of projects through my own contacts. We bring the community partners to class early, like the second week of the semester. They each give their own pitch for why their project is interesting and important. Students chat with them, and then the students choose first, second, third, pretty much by good luck. students almost always get their first choice for the project. They work in teams. They meet with the community partner a number of times. We spend some time in class on the projects. One of the hardest things is for these busy students to find time to meet, to work on the project outside class. They give updates to the class too, and it's all aiming to a final presentation to the partner and a report with their recommendations about what they think the partner should do. So the learning benefits, I enjoyed Anthony's presentation. I did not yet know about the SCUDUM projects. So think of all the benefits in the SCUDUM project when you then add in engagement with a community partner and the opportunity to contribute to actual positive change. So I think these projects have a lot of value. So I'll give a couple of them. Here's actually the first one where I live in outside Philadelphia in Haverford Township. They were in the final stages of designing a community recreation and environmental center, and the commissioners wondered, should we have renewable energy in the building? So the students looked at that. They thought wind where we live is not so good. Solar could be good, but you could add solar later. At the beginning stages, the one you could only do now is the geothermal heat pump, where you put a lot of pipes underground and you use the heat from the ground either in the winter to help heat the building or in summer for cooling. And this is now a really hot topic. You can even use the heat in the air. They're called air pumps. And they're beginning to be things people can use even in kind of colder climates. So the students worked on it. They developed a presentation. They spoke to the commissioner meeting. The architect of the building was there to talk also. He was one of the commissioners. The end analysis was that although it would cost an extra $600,000 for this type of heating cooling system, it would save $50,000 a year. And unlike a business that has maybe a 7-year time frame, this building was going to serve the community for 20, 25 years longer, so it would really pay for itself. So eventually the commissioners voted unanimously to put in a geothermal system, and one of the commissioners called this a new day for Haverford Township, which traditionally had been very conservative. So this looking long-term, considering the environment, was really a change and was very exciting to see. Over the summer, a couple of other students continued working. The township was making an application to the Pennsylvania Department of Energy for a $300,000 grant to help pay for this geothermal system. And the students helped with them. And the last day, as they were uploading all the materials and the students were helping, there was some crash on the Mac systems at the state, and they had to convert everything to PCs, which the township people weren't so familiar with. The students just went from one set of computers to the other, uploaded everything in time for the deadline, and the township got the $300,000 grant. So the commissioners made an official proclamation of thanks, helping the students for their support and wishing them well. So that was the first project we did, and boy, was it kind of a big hit. So the other ones maybe weren't quite that exciting, but a bunch of things. I have a long list, but just a couple of years ago, we were looking at taking our own college as the partner, and a number of our projects have been with our college. We have what we call the Blue Bus that commutes between Bryn Mawr and Haverford colleges. It's about 1.5 miles. This happens every 15 minutes, and some of the buses were getting quite old. So as they began to look for the next generation of buses, the transport director was interested in getting an electric bus, and we thought it would be a great chance for a student project to research the issue. So some of the concerns with the gas bus, the pollution from diesel. If we were to buy a new bus that was diesel, it was going to last for like 10 years, and we'd be stuck with this old technology as the world changed. And then maintenance costs, certainly for the old bus, were pretty high. But the research shows that electric vehicles have a lot lower maintenance costs, but they do cost a lot to buy. So that was a concern. And then when you're like doing the first one on the block to do something new, you're never quite sure if it was going to work. The first company that visited, actually, their EV bus ran out of charge in our parking lot, and they had to get it towed because they were such neophytes, they didn't know what they were doing. So that kind of put a kibosh on things. But some positives: much less costly maintenance, reduced carbon, reduced fuel costs, the fuel being electricity. So the students did the cost benefit analysis. They found that there are lots of grants that could help, particularly if you're one of the first to do it. They made the links to the college sustainability plan that calls to reduce the carbon footprint. They played up the PR value, which is not a math thing, but what we find in a lot of these projects, the math only gets you so far, and there are a lot of other factors like human factors that you can't quantify so easily, but that are important in these real world projects. So they played up how the college could get good publicity. And then they gave their final presentation. We managed to get the college president there, the director of facilities, the transportation director who had been the student's partner and had gotten data for them. And a real big takeaway from all these projects is the power of student voices. That if you're in a college, in a school, the business is education. And so students will get listened to much more than faculty or other people. So kind of banking on that. The end result, the college has ordered an electric bus. It's going to be delivered in summer 2023, and we'll start driving. And the president brags about this electronic bus in all of our talks. I saw some of my former students last summer for the alumni weekend, and they said she gave 3 talks, and in every talk she talked about the electric blue bus. So that really plays a part in it. And it's kind of win-win for everybody. So again, the students, they really made an impact and were really excited by their projects. Some other ones, this was cool. Their community partner was a team of high school students from a neighboring school district who wanted to get their school district to develop a sustainability plan, which is happening more and more. And so they asked the college students to calculate the carbon footprint of the school district and how it would be reduced if they changed their electric supplier from the traditional one using, in Pennsylvania, we have a lot of natural gas, a bit of coal, some nuclear, and you can now get your electricity sourced from renewable sources. It's kind of complicated. It's not like you're getting the electrons that came from the solar panel. The electricity goes in the grid, but there's a lot of paperwork and documents that you say, here is our document saying all of our electricity was bought from a company that produced it. And then there was a community group that worked with us to help get this data from the school district. Another one, which was just this fall, a local township wanted to begin thinking about converting its township fleet of police vehicles for a college, the college safety van, people who go around campus, also pickup trucks. And so the students looked into what's available. A lot is now available more all the time. And they analyzed the payback time for this and reported to the township. One issue is the police force was nervous. Well, what happens if at any given instant we've run out of charge or we're charging the car? And so with these high-powered chargers, you can get charged up in half an hour. So can we, do it in a time when hopefully there's not an emergency? But so they got to interview the police chief and the head of the facilities department. They got to hear what these concerns were, and they could try to pitch their presentation to address those concerns. And then another one in a variety, both they got our campus with the township government, Haverford Township, that recreation center, what would be involved in putting solar panels on these buildings, what would be the payback time. And for the last one, the end result was the township commissioners 2 years ago voted to budget $1 million to put solar panels on these buildings. I got made the chair of the Citizens Ad Hoc Advisory Committee, and we've been developing an RFP. Things slowed down because on the main township building, the facade of the new building fell off. And so before they put solar panels on, they want to get that all fixed and stuff. But it's been good they've been waiting, because as you may know, just last summer, the federal government passed the Inflation Reduction Act, $370 billion for investment in energy security, including renewables. And so there'll be a 30% cash rebate for nonprofits that undertake renewable energy products. So by waiting 2 years, the township is going to save 30%. The old rules were you could get a 26% tax rebate. And when we put solar panels on our house, we got that rebate, but nonprofits don't pay taxes, so that didn't help them. So they had to do very complicated workarounds. So now I think with this new thing, the rules are still being written. They should be coming out this winter and spring. Colleges, schools, houses of worship, local governments will all have a much better financial incentive in addition to doing the right thing to put in solar or these heat pumps. So I envision a lot of opportunities for students to carry out these projects and help groups realize the benefits. And one part, and it's kind of strange, has nothing to do with math. Sometimes when you just bring up the project, like the township had forgotten about the idea of putting solar panels on this recreation building. Oh, we never thought about it. Another early project was the lighting in our college buildings. It turned out that they were kept, the heat was kept on 24/7, and quite a few buildings had their lights on in case students ever wanted to have a meeting in the middle of the night. Well, the students, when they began looking into it, said, well, we never have meetings in that building at the middle of the night. So turn down the heat and, turn off all but the emergency lights. So sometimes just asking the question or coming up with the idea or suggesting it to somebody can have a big impact separate from your mathematical analysis. So here's some of the student reaction that it was meaningful, that they got to use their math and impacting the college and community. They really like it when the project is the college because that's their community for 4 years and they want to contribute to it. And it was satisfying to feel you were contributing and having an effect. Then for we as math folks, this isn't so strange, but other people, when they see this math involved was pretty basic. There were more numbers than mathematics involved. Most people think, well, isn't math numbers? But so here it was doing these estimates, getting data, getting real numbers, doing calculations, and seeing, but it wasn't highfalutin math. So this really lines up with the quantitative reasoning movement that says it's a very different skill set to think about how to use math in real world situations, even basic math as compared to just more theoretical math. And then maybe this is the best assessment. Here you see 3 different cohorts of students. I do this in a variety of courses at different levels. One is our senior conference where the students give presentations and kind of run it. So they are the ones giving the lectures from the hot air book. That Facebook, best senior math conference ever. Like this, thanks, great semester. This has been my favorite math class in all 4 years. So for a lot of students, this chance to make a difference with their math really is impactful. So let me end by asking some questions for you, and I'm going to go to the session later on about textbooks, but how to share this information, the units I've made in the math and sustainability course, the idea of these projects, a bunch of them. Is this a textbook? Are these units at Simiad or other sites, COMAP? I've published some things there. Is it workshops? I have a sabbatical in a year and a half. I'm thinking about doing a road tour to maybe liberal arts colleges around the country and doing workshops on them then. So anyway, I'd love to get your feedback about that. And I mentioned this last time too, the Math Awareness Month. I was the organizer with Tom Pfaff on math and sustainability, and there are a lot of materials still there that you can access. And I had the last 50 copies of this poster. And if any of you would like a couple of the copies, email me and I'll mail them out to you. They're kind of crinkled after sitting folded for 10 years, but I think you can put them to good use. So thank you very much, and I'm happy to answer any questions. And here are just some of the other projects.
Victor, I have a question.
Yep.
When I was thinking about, I think about this a lot, was the sustainability, these community classes. They always sound really appealing, and I've often wondered how you how would I get it through my curriculum committee? If there's sort of a low math content. Is there a way to think about that? Is there extra information that you can share to pitch it as a math class?
Well, I mean, the class component is doing all this math modeling. So the community-based is in addition, and I kind of modify, like if I would never not do the class now with the community, but one could imagine just doing the class And so you cover a lot of math, and you can do it at different levels of sophistication. A gen ed course, a course for students who haven't had calculus, a course for them who had, and even the senior seminar. So I think you could, totally fine, just have it as a math class, depending what level you want. And then at Bryn Mawr, we have a program called Praxis, which is linking classroom learning to community learning. And so this course fits into that. So for me, there's this structure that has been going on for about 15 years that I can fit into. Does your institution have this community-based course approach?
Not yet, but I find it very appealing. There might be a way to argue for it too.
And certainly the civic engagement office at my college when I was starting was a big help in figuring out how to find community partners. And even now, my placement person is a big help and a partner in thinking about how to keep the students on track, staying in touch with the community partner. So I wouldn't want to have to do it just by myself without that kind of partner.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, great.
So I have a question for you. My name is Catherine Kozak. I teach at a 2-year college. So do you think, it sounds like you have students that are around for 4 years. Do you think that a 2-year college could also be able to get through the materials and have a class like this?
Absolutely. I did it in the fall with a lot of second-year students, some of whom haven't had calculus. And the fact that the math involved is kind of fractions and multiplying and a lot of units, but a totally second-year student could do it again. It'd be a different level, like for students who's like not at all math, that would be a challenge, but kind of a moderately comfortable student in math. But also it's an interesting question. How much of this could one do as a way to really motivate students who've always hated math? And if we don't say it's a math course, it's a sustainability course, might that short circuit all their previous anxieties?
Right. And have you worked with so I'm trying to figure out how I'd get this started. Did you work with, we don't have a sustainability committee that I know of at my school. Would I work with the biology department or?
Well, I worked with the math department, but it is counted as an elective in the environmental studies program.
Okay.
So that could be one. And then again, this outreach, if your school has an outreach office for community service, that would be a big help.
And then the only other thing I'll mention is that I'm also the immediate past president of the American Mathematical Association of 2-year colleges. So if you can think, I mean, we have a conference every year in November. So I would love to have you do a presentation. Probably not this one because the presentations are due the 15th of this month, but maybe next year you could easily do one.
I would love that. And our little motto is the difficult we do right away, the impossible takes a little longer. So potentially we could do it by the 15th if you help me put together a proposal.
Yeah, well, you could definitely email me.
Great.
I'll put my email in the chat. Thanks.
And I mean, community colleges, teach so many students all over the country. If we could get this idea started at community colleges, that would be fabulous. My goal really is to know how to spread this idea in the math world. We have the advantage that so many students have to take math. So we have like we have an audience that we can engage with about this.
Hi, I have a question also. Wonderful presentation.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, I'm taken away. So I'm trying to figure out how we can probably have this course on our campus. And I'm teaching at a small community college also. How do you pick is the project like a capstone of the course? Is it something that the students start in the beginning of the semester and then they can put it in the end of the semester and it's up to them what they choose?
Well, they begin at the beginning as soon as we can because it takes a while. It's always a little rushed at the end, but I, ahead of time, find a number of projects either on my campus with the facilities department or with community groups. And then these partners come at the beginning, like the second week of the term, and describe the project and the students pick it. So it's important that students get a choice and have their voice. But if we had them build the project from scratch, which some people do, it'd take too long in one semester. So it's kind of a mix, but I bring in the projects and then they get to choose from them.
Wonderful. And
by the end of the semester.
a follow-up. do you think if a student is doing like undergraduate research or is taking an honors course, would it be possible for that project to be that capstone, like for a
I have
STEM constant?
independent study projects and
Yes.
senior theses and summer research with these kinds of projects. Absolutely.
Okay.
One was a really great student looking at how many EV chargers would my college need if we converted all of our fleet to EV. Another student worked with the city of Philadelphia, kind of doing a cost benefit of converting the 143,000 streetlights in Philadelphia to LEDs, and what would be the savings. And finally, this year, the city, like 3 years later, has put out an RFP to get a company to do that conversion. So yeah, there are lots of projects that a student could do more long-term than just in that one semester.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Hey, great. Well, you community college folks should form a little support group and work together to figure out how to do this in your setting.
Thanks, Victor. That was great. And I liked all of it.
Thanks, Bevan. I think back to when I was first starting all of this, and your materials from Cornell kind of inspired me to get started. So it's nice to come full circle and see you again.
Well, and it's fun to hear that Tom Pfaff is right here at Ithaca College, because I've been retired from teaching, so I have lost touch. And see if I can underground get him to come and speak to us at Cornell.
Oh, great. Yeah, we did a mini course for the MAA together a couple of years ago, and it's fun to work with. Do we need to move away for the next session?
Well, I can't see our speakers. One is from Panama and one is from Colombia, and maybe they had trouble getting across the equator. I don't know. But if people have discussions about what Victor's talking about, just keep on going and we'll wait and see.
Well, maybe I'm curious for folks in your own institution, what goes on in terms of sustainability? Are they involved? Like there's the ASHE group that has a rating system, and so my college is like silver, or are they not yet really engaged in those issues?
I have no idea if there's anything going on in my institution. But now I'm thinking we have an environmental science major, so I should contact faculty in that area and see. We also have a liberal arts capstone project that all students are required to complete. It's supposed to involve some kind of community service. And so I don't know if this would count, but I feel like it should count. You can have student-led projects, that's one version of the course, or you can have a faculty-led project, which is another version of the course. And I feel like a collaboration between math and environmental science. The thing is, you can't require students to, like, you have to allow any senior in the entire college into any of these courses based on the course description. So you could not have any guarantee that everyone has the math skills. However, if you're saying a lot of it comes down to number crunching and lower level math, then maybe if you have a couple of people more comfortable and then some who are communications oriented or environmental science, I don't know.
You actually realize the value of having a diverse group. And one thing I like about these projects is the student who's not like the star math student sometimes shines in this.
Yeah.
They're the one who's comfortable talking to the facilities director,
Right.
or maybe they're a theater stage manager and are super organized, and they help keep the team on track.
Yeah. Okay. So cool. Thank you. This is really interesting.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Well, I graduated from Swarthmore College and even had a granddaughter there. They're very active in sustainability.
Yeah, and we are in a 3-college partnership, although they're further
Right.
away, and as I understand it, they're in the process of building a lot of these underground geothermal systems to use that as a heating, cooling source for most of the buildings on their
Yeah,
campus.
they're going to try to be fossil free in just a few years. It's a huge project.
And another piece which has happened in Philadelphia that I'm excited about, we have kind of a regional university group, University of Pennsylvania, which is a big place. They have a carbon fund. If you go on a work trip, your department has to chip in, particularly for airfare, some amount of money for the carbon offset. And at my college, we're kind of planting trees in Western Pennsylvania, which has some value. But Penn is using this money to build solar panel arrays on Philadelphia school district buildings. And now with this 30% payback, it's even more economical, but it's, you know, we get these linked benefits that it's helping this other community, it's reducing our carbon footprint.
Okay, I want to interrupt. Thank you, Victor, our speaker.